All right, all right, all right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Peace and love, peace and love. Stand on what you say and only say what you can stand on. I appreciate everybody tapping in. I want to welcome. I want to do a introduction to. We got a special guest today. He's a legend as far as I'm concerned, and what I consider to be a legend. Uh, he's a very important pillar to the community. He's a community activist, gang activist, gang interventionist. Um, he brings individuals together from different sides to bring peace in the community. I want to welcome Skipp Townsend, ladies and gentlemen. Skipp Townsend.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me, man.
Yes, sir. What's going on with you, Skipp? How you doing this morning?
Man, alive and well, not dead, not in jail. This is a good day, brother. It's a good day.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, okay. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So before we get heavy into it, for the people who don't know, give us a brief summary of who is Skipp Townsend.
Man, born and raised in Los Angeles. Just simply want to be a normal little kid, but grew up fighting. Had to fight to go to school, fight to go to the movies, fight to go to park. So I grew up with a violent past. Went to jail, in and out of jail. Went to prison. But right now, I'm one of the healers of the community. I understood my dysfunction, my dysfunctional ways, the dysfunctional legacy that I left to my children. So now I'm just one of the guys cleaning up the community, helping others get ahead in life so that we can make a better way for not just my children, but my grandchildren and the other generations that follow behind.
Okay, okay, okay. So is it safe to say that um, you're a man that elevated from his situation to make the best out of it and give a better outcome than what you had?
Yes, sir. Definitely, I would like to use the word elevation, but I want to use the word anointed and not appointed. So I believe that it takes certain people, special people, who can go back into the community and not worry about what people say, but go back into the community to bring peace when the norm is to bring war and to bring violence and to show anger. So an individual who can go back in the community and say, man, let's hug each other, let's love each other, let's sit down and eat with each other. I think that takes a special person. So I would definitely say elevated, but also definitely say anointed to do so.
Okay, okay, okay. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Um, would you say it takes more courage to build than to destroy?
Oh, definitely, brother. Definitely takes more courage for that. I remember being an idiot in my ignorance. I was loved by everybody in my ignorance. But as soon as I started, as you said, elevating and started bringing others in to elevate, then I started seeing all the knives in my back, started seeing all the people want to pull me down. So yeah, definitely, it's much easier to show up with anger and a gun than it is to show up with boxes of chicken, a couple of pizzas, and some love for each other.
Okay, yeah. Because you could do that easily, as we've seen it done,
Exactly.
but with not really seeing a lot of progress on the back end.
Yes, sir.
Okay, before we get too deep into it, where you from, Skip? What part of town you from? Where you grow up at?
Well, honestly, man, my mother took me home to East 20th Street. So there's a small little part of town over there they call the 20 Outlaws. And I grew up at a church called All People's Christian Center. But she moved to Compton. She moved to 66 and Dinker. She started buying houses. And, so for about 4 years, I lived in the North Side 8 Trays. And she bought a bigger house in what they call the Rolling 60s off of Crenshaw, 63rd. And I lived there for about 3 years. Couldn't couldn't find my way over there down Crenshaw, man. I found more fights and more, foolishness than I found anything else. So I ended up staying off of Washington and Hobart with my grandmother and her sisters, and consider myself from that area at this time. That's Arlington Heights, West Adams. We call it the West Side Rolling 20s. So I found my way from the East Side to the West Side, but primarily off of Washington.
Okay, so in the East Side Rolling 20s, that would be Bloods, correct?
Yep, those were some of the original Bloods.
Okay, okay, okay. So as far as that, what like tell me about your childhood and how did that play out? Like, tell me a little bit about like how you grew up bouncing
Like I
around and like well, first off, before we get into that, was your mom a single parent?
Yeah, she was a single parent. So I had a father figure. It was my Uncle Bob was my father figure for the first, like, until I was about in the third grade. And that's when I really got into a good relationship with my real father about after third grade. But yeah, there was we were, she a single parent. She got three boys and two jobs. So how that goes, we were what they call latchkey kids. So we had to come home and go through the back door. My brother Steve had a key around his neck type thing. So, yeah, we was in the house without moms, in the house without a dad, for years. But you know, just growing up though, period. I just want to be. I grew up in the time of Bruce Lee, so I want to be a little Chinese boy, man. I want to come home and kick everybody, and jump off the roof and see if I could walk on the walls and stuff like that, right? So I used to practice stuff like that, but. When we go to the movies, we were told that the Crips were there. Can't go to the movies. My grandmother, my father's mother, bought a house in Inglewood about 1973. So now we get to go to the movies, but about within 2 years, we were told we can't go to the movies there. So now I want to be black. Now they got Superfly, Goldie, the Mac. So now I want to take my shirt off. I want a gold chain. I want a Cadillac. I asked my mama, can I get a press and curl? I want to be a pimp, but we can't go to the movies because Tookie and Barefoot Pookie, Mike and Concepcion, all them dudes is at the movie theater. So, can't go there. So at that time, man, I just didn't want to be a victim. I didn't want to give up my lunch money. I didn't want to give up my movie money. I didn't want nobody to take nothing from me. So I didn't decide to join a gang. I decided to fight back. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Growing up in the era that I grew up in, it wasn't like, okay, you want to join a gang, or maybe it was for the Crips, but for the Bloods, it was like, man, no, y'all just can't come over here and do that. You're gonna be met with resistance. And like I say, when I was 12, 13 years old, man, shit, my whole body was about the size of Tookie's arm, you know what I mean, or the size of Barefoot Pookie leg, So, so I really couldn't do much fighting, but I knew that at some point I was gonna figure it out because I wasn't giving up my money. So at that time, I decided to fight back, but the way it's stated on gang files, I went to jail that year in Inglewood and started going to juvenile hall and stuff. So it stated that I joined the Bloods, but I'm here to set the record straight. I just want to fight back. I ain't give a damn if it's Crip or Bloods. I just want to keep my own money.
Right, right. Because you wasn't looking at it from that aspect. You were just looking at it. It's people that's going around trying to run shit and take stuff from people, and you
That's
don't want to be that. You don't want to be that person that it happened to.
that's it. That was my whole mindset.
And
So
you just happen to grow up, be raised in an area where it just formed to be what it is, and those was already your friends.
that's it, man. Matter of fact, my mother, she had asked me that one day too. In 1998, I was in jail facing 2 life sentences, and I was in the gang module. And she was like, "Man, how did you get to be from Rolling 20s?" I was like, "Well, first of all, Mom, don't forget that when you raised me at 1220 East 20th Street, you told me what park I can go to, what school I can go to. This is the church you had me at, the church, All People's Christian Center, where all the 20 outlaws were. How did you think? What did you think I was going to do?" And then when I moved, I got into a big fight with well, it wasn't a big fight. I can't even say that because I got about 2 swings in. There's about a whole bunch of 60s that jumped on me. So I went to go stay with my grandmother and her sister on Washington and Harvard. Well, that's the Rolling 20s, the West Side. So I was asking her, what did you think? How did you think this was going to turn out? You know what I mean? But she wasn't understanding it. But it's just a product of the environment. When I'm going to stay with my grandmother in Inglewood, what's the Inglewood family area? So as we go into the park, we're going to the movie theater on Fifth Ave, we're going to all these places. How did you think that was going to turn out?
Right.
Living with my daddy. I went to Dorsey, living with my daddy. So I'm walking through the jungles, getting home from school and stuff. How did you think that was going to turn out? What it did was allow me to build relationships with all the Bloods throughout LA County. How did you think I was not going to be a Blood? And I'm fighting with the dudes in the 60s. I'm fighting with the dudes on Dinker trying to get back and forth to school. So, you know, well, how'd you think that was going to turn out? I really
Right.
am a product of my environment. I just want to simply go home. I want to go to school. I want to go to the mall. I was not looking to be a part of foolishness, but the foolishness found me and I fought back.
So did you ever get a chance to express that to your mom or to your pops?
No, my father looked at it as a choice. I remember one day he told me to go home and change. We were going somewhere to a family reunion or something. And he said, man, won't you go home and change and go with us? And I was like, man, I'm fresh out the shower, man. I know I don't stink. He said, nah, man, you don't stink, but look at what you got on. He was afraid of red. He was like, man, you can't go with us like that. And I was, so he didn't truly understand. I had to explain to him that, different communities gravitate to different colors. If you live in certain communities, I had a red Corvette, and my cousin, who did not gangbang, lived in the 60s, told me, man, don't leave that here tonight. Don't park it over here because of a red car. And I'm thinking, man, you don't even gang bang. And everybody on this block knows you're not gang related. So ain't nobody gonna say nothing to you. What are you afraid of? But that's how my father looked at life as well. They were afraid that the world was ran by Crips. And I just want to stand up and say, man, well, they're not gonna run me, make me afraid. I can't do it.
So they didn't really understand the lifestyle or what was really going on. They just knew what they seen from the outside.
Exactly. My mother signed me up to go play baseball and football wherever. She put me on a team in Watts, a football team in Watts. And she didn't understand going to Henry Clay Junior High to practice and going to Locke High School, put me around different people, so she didn't care. My mother always taught me and my brothers to fight anyway. Like, she didn't understand the gang lifestyle. You got to understand she wasn't a part of that. She wasn't,
Right.
you got to figure most of the gangs were started like dudes who were born in 55, 54. My mother was already 14, 15 years old when they were even born. So by the time 70 came, 71, my mother's 30 years old. She don't know nothing about no gangs, no Crips, no Bloods. She like, just go fight, go to that store. I'm like, Mom, I'm not going to that store. I'm gonna go 2 blocks, 3 blocks away. And she's like, nah, that store is closer. All right. So I say, all right, now get out and I go the other way anyway. Like I ain't damn what you talking about. I'll be back in an hour. Shit. I ain't going to the closest store.
Because you already know what's gonna happen if you do,
Yeah,
regardless
exactly.
of what she say.
Right. Exactly. So yeah.
Yeah, and I picked that up just looking back today, myself. Parents, they going off of what's affordable, where they can go.
Yeah.
They not really thinking about who's over here, what gang is over here. They just trying to get into a place that they can afford because times is hard and they can get harder. So they just trying to get stable and get settled before things really fall down and break down.
Right. That's it. That's it.
Nah, for sure, for sure. So as far as growing up with just your mom, basically, how would you say that affected you without having your pops there? How would you say that affected your growth in a positive way or in a not so positive way?
Man, it was a major effect. And it's crazy you asked this question. Me and my mother just had this conversation about 5 days ago, 4 or 5 days ago. My uncle
Oh,
Bob
oh,
was my father figure. And had he stayed in the house, I would have avoided a lot of bullshit because he was a strong, independent man. He was an entrepreneur. He owned a club in Inglewood called the Bob Bishop's Fabulous Five Torches, and you know he was just an entrepreneur, man. So he would have showed me how to be an entrepreneur, how to be my own boss, but more importantly, how to be a man. So a lot of the fights I had, a lot of things that I'm trying to prove myself. I'm trying to, I'm doing stuff. People stealing cars. I learned how to steal cars, and people fighting, and I'm learning how to fight, and I'm doing all this stuff to prove myself in the streets. But if I had a strong father figure at home to tell me, man, you ain't got to prove nothing, to show me how to really be a man, I think I'd have turned out a whole lot different. I had a lot of idle time. I started going back and forth to jail, which wasn't cool. Most of the 80s, man, I couldn't tell you what September looked like. I'd always be incarcerated. I'd come out super light, because I've been in jail. You can tell if somebody been in jail, man, they don't get no tan during the summer. I miss every summer, man. I would miss every summer. So I think that would have been different had there been somebody in the home to help guide me. Because I would actually pick up the phone and call over to my mother moved to Inglewood. So I was calling over off of West Adams. I'm calling in the 20s like, hey, what y'all doing today? And they'd be like, shit, we about to ride the bikes up to LA High. Said, hold on, here I come. I'm asking other people what we doing. So whether I'm alive, whether I'm in jail, all depending on what they were going to do. I didn't have
Mm.
my own
You
thought.
done
I'm
had
calling
your
people
own
like,
program.
yeah, like what y'all doing? Okay, well, don't leave. Here I come. And then I end up over there doing whatever they did, whether it was stupid or not stupid. Here I come. So,
Yeah, I can most definitely attest to doing the same thing growing up for sure.
right,
For sure. Basing what I'm about to do off of what somebody else about to do instead of having my own game plan. And if you fall in line with mine's, then you fall in line with it. And if you don't, you don't.
right, yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting that parents cannot understand what's happening right outside their door. Was your parents born here?
Yeah, my father, born and raised in Watts. Yeah, he come right off 110th in Wilmington. My mother, she was born in Texas, but by the time she was 5 years old, she was dropped off on 20th and Naomi. So she was right in the midst of where the 20 Outlaws started. She went to 20th Street Elementary School, all that. So that's what trips me out because that's where she was born and raised. And then that's where she brought me and my brother for the first, 6, 7 years of our life. And then she trying to figure out how we gravitate to that street when that's the street she come off of. So
Right.
my mother was born in Texas, but raised in the 20s, and my father's raised in Watts.
So, okay. So it seems like maybe it's kind of safe to say you was kind of raised by the streets.
Oh, definitely, definitely. My mother had two jobs, so I knew to be home by 4:30. She getting off the first job, and I knew to be home by 9:30 because she get off the second job at 10, sometimes 11. So yeah, we in the streets, man. I'm running my own program. I'm hanging out. We supposed to be in the house when the street lights come on. And back then they didn't have cell phones. So all I had to do was take the phone off the hook and blame my brother. Say, oh, he was on the phone talking to some girl, because there wasn't no three-way calling, wasn't none of that back in the days. She would call to make sure we got in the bathtub, make sure you did your homework. You need to be asleep when I get home. Should I be
Right.
getting home 10, 15 minutes before she get home? You know?
Got it on schedule.
Yeah, pretending to be asleep. So that's how that go.
Okay, so how old was you when you got introduced to the gang culture, to know it to be gang culture?
I was about 13 years old. Me and a couple of my friends, we were in Inglewood, my grandmother's house, and we were talking about going to the Fox Hills Mall. And this dude, Kevin Bell, had said, "Give me your money." Like, what? He said, "Man, y'all might as well give me your money because when you get to the mall, the Crips gonna take your money." He said, "Give me your money and I'll hold it for you." And I thought that was the weakest thing a person could ever tell me, man. I was mad. I was hot. Like, man, ain't nobody gonna take nothing from me. And Kevin Bell, he's on 80th and Crenshaw, and he was like, man, well, there's a dude around the corner. He said, Bucky. He said, man, you and Bucky fight. So he said, show me what y'all gonna do. So me and Bucky sitting out there wrestling. He started laughing. He said, Skip, man, he said, I'm gonna tell you, man. He said, you could beat up Bucky, but Bucky can't fight. He said, can't neither one of y'all fight, man. Y'all can get your money taken. So he had us out there fighting, man. And that's when I just said, man, I don't care. I'm taking my money. And if they ask me how much money I got, I'm gonna tell them $1,000. If they ask me what size my shoes are, I'm gonna tell them they're your size. You know what I mean? That's when my whole attitude just changed. Like, man, I'm not having it. You know,
Right.
I'm gonna do whatever, man. You know, and sitting out here fighting. I think we fought about 2-3 hours. He had all the little kids in the neighborhood. We out there on the grass fighting, and that was it. I'm like, man, I'm with this. I'm not going out like that. So, uh, yeah, it's about 13 years old.
Okay, so is the reason that you had, would you say the part of the reason that you had that mentality, have you seen other people go out like that before?
Nah, at 13 years old, I really hadn't. Well, yeah, I did. I had seen some dudes. I used to live on 66 and Dinker, and one part of my upbringing was this guy just died, Monster Kody. Every time I walked past 69th Street, this dude would have everybody on the block. They had a porch right at the corner. I don't know if it was Michael Orso house, but he would send everybody off the porch from Michael Orso house. Just go get Skip, take his bike, take his newspapers, because I used to throw newspapers. So really, I would see people who would give in to them. I fought them because you can't take my bike because my mama gonna beat the shit out of me, and you can't take my newspapers. That's how I make money. So every time I went down 69th Street, I would see them punking somebody or doing something to somebody. So I would see that, but um, I tried to avoid it the best I could. But when I had to, I would fight. And this is prior to being 13. I was probably like 9, 10, 11 years old at that time. So uh, yeah, I seen it happen to other people, and I'm thinking, man, it can't happen to me. I don't want to be the weakest link. I don't want to be the one that gotta give up my lunch money and all that.
Right, especially on the back end, you're gonna want to use it,
Yeah,
and it can't happen every day. You
right,
can't go through this every day. It's just not. It's not. It's not something that anybody who's logical in their brain will want to go through.
right. Yeah,
Okay, so you was delivering papers? Was that your first job?
yeah. That was my first job. I got my brother was delivering papers for this man. I can't remember his name, but he would show up in the El Camino and drop the papers off on the porch, and my brother would get I don't know, I think he get like a quarter, got like 25 cents for the weekend to go deliver papers. But you got to understand, I'm talking about like 1974, 1975, that quarter was shit like $1. Uh, you know what I mean? Because you can get a lot of stuff for a quarterback for a weekend. So, but my brother stopped and the guy offered me 50 cents, for Sunday's newspaper, throwing Sunday's newspaper. So Saturday and Sunday. So that's what I would do. Yeah, first job.
Okay, and so and how long did you do that before you decide I need to make some more money? I need to get a better job or
Well, it wasn't that. I did that all the way up until when shit, I couldn't take 69th Street no more. It was the worst of the worst
oh,
dudes in
okay.
the area, man. And actually going with my mama to Cody's house and knocking on the door, and my mama telling his mama. And then Kody coming to the door like, man, I ain't never hit Skip. I ain't never touched Skip. And he's absolutely right. He didn't. But he had me fight everybody on that block. I had to fight for all that. He sent everybody. He never came himself, but I fought his little brother and everybody else. So, that's when it got like a bit too much because that's when the neighborhood started changing, and now the everybody's starting to victimize each other when blacks starting to victimize blacks. You know what I mean?
Mm,
So now I can't just keep putting myself out there, and and if it didn't happen on 69th Street, 71st Street, or crossing Florence, going over there, and somebody over there. Everybody was taking everybody's bikes back then. So,
Oh, so that was the thing, taking bikes.
yeah. So I was a bike thief, but I ain't took nobody bike. If you go in the store and I see that, I'm about to jump on your shit and ride off. But they was actually pow, knock you off your bike, take that type. Man, I can't keep going everywhere, and so yeah, that was it,
Yeah,
man.
no, for
It
sure.
was a rise of violence. It wasn't even to me. At that time, it wasn't a rise of Crips because that had nothing to do with me. It was the rise of violence at that time, like when I was 10, 11 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. What, as far as the fighting go, what was the transition from fighting to using guns on the street?
Man, I can't tell you this dude's name, but this dude had tape on his glasses, right? His, his,
Hmm.
his his glasses was broke, the lens, so he put tape over his glasses. So everybody used to call him crazy for that, right? But he had a 22, and it didn't have the holding part. What you call that right there? But anyway, he put tape around that too. And he told me, he said, "Hey, Skip, man, you done fought all them dudes over there." This is later on in life. This is about 15 years old, 16 years old. And he said, "Man, stop fighting them." He said, "You could shoot them." And he gave me that. Right. So that's what he was doing. So he gave me that pistol, and I was like, "Man, I'm going to fight him." And then when they found out I had that pistol that pulled to the right, it changed a lot. A lot of people stopped wanting to fight me. You know what I mean? They're like, "Oh, he got
Mm,
the thing." So it kind of boosted my ego, but at the same time, yeah, it completely turned my life around, man, to where shit, they didn't want to jump out and fight me no more. Now they want to shoot me. Now they want to kill me. So yeah, it kind of made things a little worse for me.
fighting wasn't even an option. Now,
Right, because they know I got something, so now they got something. So
right.
instead of jumping out on sight and trying to take off on me or whatever, now they got things to shoot back as well. So now the game changed.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine for the worst. So when did you know at the time that it boosted your ego?
Nah, at the time I didn't know. At the time I tried to avoid all situations. 16, 17 years old, I was trying to avoid all that. Actually, I want to be street racing or low ride. I want to work on cars, and I was doing a lot of stealing the cars, so I tried to avoid that for the most part. Around that time somebody had taught me how to take a screwdriver and break into Nissans and Toyotas. So man, I tried to avoid all the Crip and blood issues, knowing all the people I knew, but yeah, I couldn't avoid it. So I said, "Fuck it."
Yeah, I'm glad that you expressing this too, because the narrative is always like this is what we want to do. This is, we don't want to be good people. We don't want to try to do something different. We don't, it's even sometimes it even go as far as like people think we don't have any extracurricular activities that we do outside of what is being propagated to the people about us. So it's
Right.
good that you expressing that.
Yes, sir.
Um, so have you ever you said you've been to prison, correct?
Yes, sir.
How did you end up there?
Selling drugs, man. So I was going back and forth to jail as a juvenile, stealing cars and breaking into cars. But I learned to sell drugs, man. That became my thing to do. That's when I started making money. That was probably about 82, 83. And when I started doing that and making money, that's when my life changed again because at that point I became suicidal. I wasn't ever going to kill myself, shoot myself in the head, but every day, every action I had, I could have been killed. I was 120 pounds hanging out in Crip neighborhoods with red Pendletons on, red hat, red shoestrings, selling drugs. You know what I mean? I was I bought red cars and, had loud music. I would draw attention to myself. I was in the 60s in a red 64 Chevy. I was in the Mansfield neighborhood, Marvin Cripps with red Cadillacs, with red rubber bands in my hair. And actually, I think it saved my life to go to prison. So I was going back and forth to jail. I had relationships with a lot of these guys in these different neighborhoods, but still in all, I was a blood and a bunch of Crip neighborhoods that didn't like Bloods. Even in Inglewood, I was in the Inglewood Village Crip area. I should have had, been in the family area or the Pyrus, but I was hanging with the Inglewood Village Crips. That's where I would get most of my stuff from. So, just hanging with them. And at some point, they started killing each other. So, what they're going to do to the outsider, the blood who hang around there. But I went to
Right.
prison. Yeah, but I went to prison in '86 and I didn't get out till January of '88. So I think that right there, and when I came home, I seen how many people were robbed and killed, and they were still robbing and killing, putting people in the trunk. They put Fat Tommy in the trunk. They killed one of the twins, Cornell Dornell. They killed Cornell. They were people who had money, way more money than I did. I probably have about at the most 4, maybe 5 kilos of cocaine, but these dudes was having hundreds and they was killing them. These dudes was
Mm.
millionaires and they was killing them, robbing them. So I know that I'd have been an easy target. I went to prison at 120 pounds, man. There were girls in the 6th grade bigger than me, and here I am walking to prison yard. You know what I mean? So you got to figure, man, on the streets, shit, man, I would have been an easy target. Like, all right, we can't get none of the millionaires. Let's grab Skipp real quick. We get him. And I was going everywhere. You can call me, say, come through, and here I come. So, yeah, I think prison probably saved my life back then.
And so, how did you? What made you? Okay, so when you started mingling with these Crip dudes, you was a blood. What made you even do that? Was the Crip and Blood thing not that serious at first for you to even start doing that? It hadn't turned up that heavy yet.
Well, remember, I used to steal cars. I used to steal cars and I used to break into cars or whatever. So I would go to the skating ring and I would sell whatever I had to whoever's there. Somebody needed tires, somebody needed the Celica Super seats or whatever it was. We used to go get these trucks. So a lot of these lowriders, these trucks that got the lift gates on them, we could steal the armature up underneath them, the thing that goes and makes the truck up go up. It's the same thing that make the lowriders go up and down. So if I
Okay.
so if I go to these big trucks and steal the armatures, now I'm at the skating ring and the Hoovers need the armatures, or the Rolling 60s is like, man, you got any tires for me? So I just started meeting people, and the guys in Inglewood Village, they were playing dominoes. I go hang out with them, play dominoes, go chase some girls with them. So got real cool. And when drugs hit LA and they got it, it's like, oh, I'm going through y'all. I'm coming through. Here I go. You know what I mean? But then I went on Mansfield and not Mansfield. I went on a street called Cloverdale, which is in the Mansfield neighborhood. It's a Crip neighborhood. And shit, when I hit that block, I had double up. And they were like, oh shit, well he cool. He got double up. So now I'm giving some of them double up. Now they like, hey, let's go get 2-3 ounces. Okay, I'm taking them where I go. So now we just became cool like that. And it wasn't until I started bringing my younger homies over there. I brought the Blackstones and the 20s over there. Now they started tripping like, okay, you was that one cool blood dude, but now you bringing other bloods. Now you starting to trip. So,
Yeah.
now I got to juggle these relationships, So, but whatever I did, though, I kept my crew with me from the Mansfields. I would have 2 or 3 dudes always with me from over there. When I went out to Vegas, when I went out of town, as I made money, I made sure that the dudes with me made money too. So that kind of kept my relationship. I even introduced them to the Crips in Inglewood, but I took the Bloods from Inglewood with me as well. So I
Right.
was always building relationships because it was about money for me. And I wanted everybody to eat. I didn't want to be the only one with money because shit, I wouldn't have lasted at all. They'd have been like, all right, well, let's get Skipp. You know what I mean?
No, that's a fact.
Yeah.
It's gonna be it's gonna be, you don't want it to be a big me, little you thing. You
Right.
want, everybody can be a boss. Everybody can be in position.
Yep, that was it.
And that's interesting. It's interesting you say that because it seems like at the beginning of every empire or situation, that's when it's always the best, being that it wasn't Crips and Bloods at first. A lot of y'all knew each other.
Right.
So going into that, that was the way that y'all approached it. It's like, I know this dude. He a stand-up dude. This Crip and Blood shit is it's what y'all represented, but it was also new. So maybe y'all didn't even fully know how to navigate it. It was different things probably popping up, rules and politics every day, every week about it.
Yeah.
Probably.
So as the money started coming in LA and people started making money, what happened was dudes who could not get on the money page started politicking, the gang banging. Like, well, if you not
Wow.
type thing, and they the ones who started wanting to rob people. So now you got jackers out. So now you got people who are going around every day jacking people, taking their shit. So now you got different neighborhoods who wasn't at war starting to be at war because of, oh, you killed my homeboy robbing him. So your neighborhood, you didn't do it as an individual, your neighborhood did it. Your
Right.
neighborhood killed my homeboy. So now we got neighborhood wars behind stuff like that. We got beefs that started behind jealous dudes, not just robbing the dudes who have money, but killing them sometimes. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, just rob them. Why you got to kill him? But they come in like that. So, that's what happened a lot. That robbing and killing just turned the 80s just turned LA upside down with that. So now people hanging out. Now it's not where you hanging out 3, 4 dudes. Now you got 100 dudes on the block. You got guys at each corner. You got guys whistling and turning their lights on when they see something happening. So now people really started, protecting their area. You know what I mean? So it turned into straight mayhem, man. Where people are now looking, they're going hunting. They're looking for stragglers. They drive
Mm,
down the street to see who walk into the store. It's 100 dudes on your block, so they know not to go down there, but they look to see who going to the store. Who going to the hamburger stand. And now they shooting dudes. Doing that. So
Trying to
yeah,
catch somebody slipping.
that was exactly what it is. But imagine they are hunting though. They actually get in their cars going to look for somebody. It's not like, so in my days, man, what we would do, me and my partners, we go to a party and we get in the party and the party cool. And we look up and see 2, 3 dudes like, oh, it ain't but 2 or 3 of them. We look up again, see it's about 12 of them, 15. They're like, damn, okay, they might start tripping. So now we
Right.
just want to go, we just want to get out. We just like, all right, well, let's bounce. Let's get up out of here. So the only reason I'm gonna hurt you is if you stop me from going to my car. If you stop me from going home tonight, then I'm gonna do something to you. But that's a whole different thing on gangbanging. There are dudes who are actually sitting at home doing nothing, get in their car and say, let me go find somebody. You get the mentality is different. My
Yeah.
mentality is it's 15 of y'all and 3 of us. I just want to get out this party before it become 100 of y'all. And now y'all want to show off and want to stomp somebody out or, do all that
Right.
stuff. And I'm going to have to shoot you. You know what I mean? Let me just get up out this party so I can go home. That's a different type of gang banging mentality than the dude who's sitting at home and say, well, shit, man, I ain't got nothing else to do, man. Let me go find one of these dudes slipping. Go
Yeah.
put on, put a mask on, hang out by a store, actually out the car, just standing around waiting. That's a different mentality.
Yeah. Because you was more responding to if somebody come messing with you. You wasn't going out looking for nobody, but sometime it would be but you saying that it turned into people going out to hunt for people on both sides though.
Right. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. So as far as people deciding that they was about to go rob somebody and take their stuff, would you say that that could have stemmed from those individuals not wanting to hustle or figure out how they can hustle, or people didn't want to share the connections, or how would you say that played out that way?
Yeah, I think it was people who really didn't want to hustle, because the true hustlers, the dudes who really made a lot of money, they hung out with each other. They hung out with each other. They all knew each other. They would break into a gym and have basketball games till 1, 2 in the morning. You know what I mean? At different parks, you'd have Ferraris and Rolls Royce and Mercedes outside the park, and they all knew each other. But there were other people who didn't have that same skill set. So I didn't have the skill set to make millions of dollars. So while all these big names, Freeway Rick, Whitey, and all these dudes, Young Tommy was making millions of dollars, I was making thousands. But I was never mad at their success. I used to
Right,
aspire to have their success. So if I made $8,000 in one night, should they'd have made a million. But my 8,000, I'm gonna take that and flip it so I can try to make 16 or 20,000 tomorrow. So I was always trying to get to that level, but there were other people like, man, shit, why even try? Just take their shit, run up in their house, get a 500,000, 400,000, taking their stuff. I never was one to do that. I never thought like that. As a matter of fact, shit, if I owed somebody money, I would be uncomfortable. If I owed them shit, $2,000, $3,000, I'd be uncomfortable till I paid them. But there
right.
are other people who think like, man, I'm gonna come up on somebody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real, for real. So, as far as how you got to prison, you said that was through the drugs, right?
Yes, I did.
That
Yeah.
that was through the drugs. Okay, so what was that experience like for you in there? How did
Well,
how did that play out?
well, that was a horrible experience at first because I was in Las Vegas in Clark County, and we were contacted by the feds, and we were told we were facing 55 years to life for conspiracy. So that scared the shit out of me. I didn't want to do at 19 years old. I didn't want to do 55 years. I think at the time, this is 86, so I think they had halftime. So I still would have been looking at about 27
20
years.
some years.
Yeah, and I was like, man, this is garbage. Shit, I don't have enough money to do that. So once it became state time and took a deal for 5 years, um, it was a cakewalk. The only thing was being away from my family, but it wasn't nothing major. Um, the Crips was starting out there. There was a dude from Bounty Hunters who had killed a guy, a local dude from Vegas. So they say to LA, once again, it wasn't this one dude who killed the one dude. It was them LA dudes that killed one of our people. You know what I mean? So when I went to prison, there was one of his cousins was in there looking for who's from LA, who's from LA, looking for the dude who killed his cousin. But I ran across some more of his family who said, "Man, we know who did it. We know you didn't do it, Skip. You straight." But yeah, it's the same politics as Crips and Bloods in California prison.
Okay, and was that the only time that you did in prison in Vegas?
Yeah, so when I came home, I had to go to California, but that was for about 2 weeks. So I had a case that had prison time for California, so I just transferred to California. They gave me the number. I I was out on parole because the time was already served. So yeah, I just did a lot of time in jail, but just those 2.5 years in prison.
Okay, okay. So coming out of that, how did you like? What thoughts came to your head to make you feel like I need to transition to into out of this lifestyle into a more positive direction?
So my entire life, man, I had been shot at and been in all kind of stuff, the things I told you about. But 1988 in Los Angeles was the wildest. I did not think I was gonna make it out. As soon as I got home, man, I'm getting shot at. Everything's going on 1988. It was just wild, and I thought, oh, this is the year. It was wilder than when I left in '86. Seemed like it was more people, and there were no rules. Everybody was up for grabs. Like I say, they was kidnapping all the money makers. Shit, gangbang was at all time high. So I completely stopped wanting to make money. I was making money, but it wasn't coming that fast. So I just said, you know what, man, I got to get deep in the gang banging. I had to gang
Wow.
bang hard in order to stay alive in '88. It was no longer about trying to make money because I just said I just couldn't. I couldn't put myself out there like that. So I just went full fledged '88 into this is who I am. I'm about to do something to somebody so I don't get dead. So yeah, that was it. I made it through '88 and 1989. I had saved some money and gave my mother the money, and she bought a house in Victorville and said, "Come on out here to Victorville," which is probably a little more than 100 miles outside of LA. And going up that hill, we ruining these cars, they overheat and all that. So that's when I started saying, let me get a tow truck. Bought a tow truck and tried to transition from gang banging to driving a tow truck. But what I didn't know is most of the tow truck drivers was Crips and some of these old washed up dudes. The old, not the young ones, but the old washed up dudes was saying, man, we don't let Slavs talk. I'm like, what? And, I said, man, I don't even know how to be a truck driver. I know how to gang bang. Keep fucking with me. And all I know how to do is to deal with you the way I'm supposed to. So I had to transition and I had to fight my way into that industry where, dudes were saying, oh, well, you can't come over here. You can't do this. And so even though I didn't want to hang on Century and Broadway, I would go get in my truck and hang on Century and Broadway anyway, just to show them like, man, you ain't about to run me off. You're not about to chase me on the other side of Jefferson on Adams somewhere. I'm about to sit over here. So actually it opened up the towing industry as well. I was the first blood. Well, I wasn't the first blood. There was some other bloods, but they were humble. And they didn't create the problem. I was the first one to say this is Bloods and I'm towing, and other dudes came after me, But so it was a transition there too. But that was it. That's when I decided I wasn't gonna be violent no more. Let me get into the towing, but it was a transition because I just didn't want to just full-time gang bang. So now I'm meeting
Right.
different dudes from different neighborhoods, and I'm cool with them, and I'm slowing down my role on gang bang. And it wasn't a stop. I didn't hit the brakes. I slowed down,
Slow down a little bit.
Yeah, I just got off the gas. That's all.
Yeah, interesting that you said that too, because um, Century and Broadway, from what I heard, those areas, those was heavy spots for where you see people with the tow truck. They waiting on accidents to happen because people be out there clowning, driving, fucked up, messed up,
So,
and incorrect. So yeah, that's interesting that you say that because I actually I know a couple of people that I speak to you about on another note who was actually out there in those times also.
yeah. The Burger King it was a Arco station there. It was an AM/PM gas station. And I used to sit there, and I was told a couple times I shouldn't come back and I can't be there. So I
Right.
just lightly went home, got my 45 automatic, and came back and sat there, waiting on somebody to. I had a couple fights there, but shit, I couldn't be run off, man, because
It wouldn't stop.
yeah, it would have never stopped. Then they don't wanted my gas money. Then they don't want to drive my truck. You know what I mean? So shit, I just had to do what I had to do, man.
Yeah, people would try to have you doing the tolls and then they get the money
Right,
type
exactly.
stuff. So yeah, no, for sure you couldn't have that. Nobody would want to operate a business like that, especially you trying to build something for yourself, build something for your family. You just now coming into something, so yeah, I can see why that was the approach that you took.
Right.
Okay, so how did you be? How did you get into being an interventionist, an activist, and being like a person to bring together people from different sides of the community to build peace and unity?
Man, to be honest with you, I said it earlier, I'm anointed, not
Knowing
appointed.
it, yeah,
Right. So even when I was in jail in 2004, I did a violation. And when I did my violation in 2004, I didn't know nothing about intervention. I didn't know how to do it or nothing, right? But I noticed that shit, every module I was going into, we was getting into wrecks, man. It wouldn't take long before Larasa, and here they come. You know what I mean? So when I would see these young dudes, man, these little young Hoovers or young neighborhood Crips talking about I need that, I got to the point where, man, you can't have that. I don't give a fuck. You can't. You're not about to take the little homie to the back to the blue wall to get a. No, it ain't none of that. If I'm in here, y'all can't do it. It's over, man. We gotta stick together, man. They're gonna rush us at some point. And I didn't know how to speak to. I didn't know how to speak to LaRasa at that time. I didn't know how to get. The only thing I knew how to do was take my little black kids, man, and come on, we ain't about to get down like that, and keep them from hurting each other. And I had a homeboy who had some very disrespectful stuff on his eye, right? And I had other people, neighborhoods whacked out up under his eye. And he said, I went to the 2000 floor one day and he said, Skip, man, I have about 6-7 fights a day. And I was like, man, that got to stop. That's over with. So that's really when I started thinking about that. But when I came home, I got out in 2005 and Unity One, American dudes, they were after my homeboy Big Reese. So Big Reese, they figured if they got Big Reese, they had the whole 20s, and we could stop the war between these communities, right? But Reese is one of them dudes who's like want to be a fly on the wall. He don't want to be the center of attention. So he asked somebody else to go. And my homeboy Rocky, my homeboy Monster, they was going to the meetings, Lil Reese. And when Monster invited me, I knew that was it. I said, man, I want to be able to learn the stuff y'all know and do the stuff y'all doing. And they told me stop running from Bo Taylor. They said Bo Taylor been coming around recruiting. He mentioned my name a couple times, and I never went. So they said, man, stop running from Bo. And that was it, man. I quit towing. Called Bo. We met up at a breakfast joint on Olympic. And matter of fact, he didn't even get the message. He didn't even know I was looking for him. He just pulled up to the breakfast spot when we sitting there talking, and I seen him. I said, "Oh man, you got my messages?" He said, "Nah, I ain't getting no message. I just came to have breakfast," and that was it. He said, "If you serious, ride with me." And I started rolling with Bo for the last 2 years of his life, man. He taught me a lot of stuff. The things that he taught me that were good, I learned from that, and the stuff he taught me that was bad, I learned from that too. And shit, I'm in this work. I stopped towing, stopped doing everything. Every day of my life now is dedicated to this work. I don't do nothing else. I can't even tell you. I don't even got a phone number on tow truck driver. My good friends is all dead. They done died recently. So everything I do is about saving lives. I can tell you how to save lives, but I can't tell you none of the past. I can't tell you how to steal cars no more. Now, all the stuff I did, even gang banging, man. My neighborhood say, Skip, man, you turned down, man. You just turned down right now. And I tell them that's not true. I'm turned off. I'm completely off. Not turned down. I'm completely turned off. So.
And you got another mission.
Yes, indeed.
Got another mission. So, as far as you figuring out that you can be the person to bring people together, was you said Bo Taylor, he was a part of that puzzle, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Major part.
So would he be like a mentor to you?
Oh, definitely. Definitely he was. Man, I would spend about an hour or two every night, about 12 midnight, talking to Bo, trying to convince him that the way that I was going is the right way. And he spent that same 2 hours trying to convince me, Skip, I've been there, done that, seen it already. He said, don't listen to me, don't take my word. He said, you go do that for yourself and come back and tell me how it worked out. And about 85% of the time he was right. Yeah, so he's definitely my mentor.
Was you ever able to prove him wrong with any of the ways that you thought things would work?
Yeah, a couple of times. Matter of fact, he didn't believe in city or county money. He only believed in taking money from private funders. And, he can get 600, 700,000 a year. and I was able to get 60,000 from a county fund, and so I proved him wrong. We can get some money. I immediately pulled in 20,000 from neighborhood councils, 10,000 apiece. So immediately when I got to him, I brought about $80,000, 100,000 within the first year of me working with him. So in ways that he didn't want to go get the money, but I went and got it. So.
And that was all. And did you do that working through your own resources that you found?
Yeah, I did, but it was I brought it into Unity One American. I brought it into the team, but it was I went to neighborhood council meetings. And what Bo would do, Bo would go into a neighborhood council meeting and ask, "Are you guys talking about public safety?" And if they said they were, he'd whistle and all the Crips and Bloods would come in. And he said, "Okay, don't ever talk about public safety again if you're not talking to them. Because these are your drive-by shooters. These are the dudes who are keeping your community safe by building this relationship." So he would do that at where the mayor is meeting, where the supervisors, he'd do it at neighborhood councils. There were people who said they had organizations called No More Crime, but they ain't know not one criminal. So what are y'all doing? So Bo would come in and expose them. I would come in and say, well, where's your funding coming from? How are you getting paid for this? Who are you dealing with? Well, you need to put us on the payroll. So I would come in and be their friend, where Bo would come in and spit in their face like, don't you ever say you doing with no more crime and you don't know none of the criminals. You know what I mean? So we wanted the same outcome, but we had different approaches. I would come in and educate them and say, man, what y'all doing is wrong. These are the dudes right here you need to hire from your community. And these are the guys who can help bring the violence down. We can take the writings off the wall. We can get the little killers to stop shooting. These guys right here. Whereas Bo would come in and demand money. Just, I got all the shooters. Give me the money. And they wouldn't always do it like that. You know what I mean? And when they did, they would give money to big organizations. They give it to the Urban League, give like $2 million to the Urban League and say, you got to fund Bo and his team. And the Urban League would give about 60, 70, $80,000 and keep the rest. So Bo got tired of it. Bo was like, man, you can't pimp me. You guys are poverty pimps, So he just stayed to himself and went with private funding because he exposed a lot of people who wasn't right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like here, be happy with this.
Oh yeah. It still happens to this day, brother. You'd be surprised. I've been doing this 15 years and people are constantly calling me saying, hey, Skipp, man, we're going after this $2 million grant and we want to have you on board so we can give you 50,000 for 2 years. I'm like, 50,000, but that's 25,000 a year, bro. And you're getting 2 million. And the part that you need done is the part that I do. The safety part,
the most important part,
the most important part, and you want to give me what is that, like 10%? Not even 10%, that's like 1% of what y'all getting. So yeah.
Trying to throw the bones. Throw the bones. The American program, if I'm not mistaken, when I was in juvenile hall, they would come in there and speak to the kids and try to uplift us. They would bring older ex-felons in there, people that have been in prison and stuff, speak to us, let us know like this not the road that we want to go down.
Yeah.
To try to get us to start changing our life around and making different decisions at an earlier age.
Yeah, that was Julian. Julian used to run the juvenile camps and juvenile hall. Yeah, but he would bring Rockhead and Sleep and Big Shiphead and all these other dudes. Looney.
Yeah, I remember that. But I would say like it was like that stuff was good, but like what you doing is very is an important piece because like it takes for it's not just people coming into these facilities and speaking to people. Like we got to get our families involved. We got to get our communities involved. The home is like one of the biggest teaching spaces that you can get a lot of your information and gain from. But also, a lot of people don't spend a lot of their time at the home. We spend a lot of time at school or out with other people or out in the world. So it's good that you bringing people together for unity, so that like when people transition from these spaces, they can transition hopefully into spaces where they can get the same kind of nurturing and the same kind of guidance and uplifting.
Right. So look at it like this, man. I tell people all the time, would you take a bath and put on the same dirty clothes? And some people say, yeah, I did it before. But it's not healthy to do. Yeah, I've done it before myself. But so if I take a young kid, say you got a son, he's 16, 17 years old, and he's going the wrong way. And we see that he keep going to juvenile hall, going to camp. So we take him every day and show him something nice, show him something beautiful, help him with math and algebra, show him how to be a fireman, electrician, or a lineman for DWP, where you can make a hundred the linemen make about $120 per hour. You know what I mean? So if I show him stuff like this, and now he's like, oh man, this is cool. But I take him back home, and you and your wife smoking weed, your wife selling weed out the back window. You got guns all in the garage, and you show him the guns and shit. So what's happening is I'm giving him a bath each and every day, but I'm putting him back in that environment that don't support the change, where he can see where the guns are. He can say how much mama making money with weed. She just bought a new BMW, and whatever she sell crystal meth too, whatever it is. I could talk to him all day and get him hanging out with firemen, get him hanging out with Department of Water and Power, and getting him to see how he can be in a career where he can make 100 plus a year, doing something productive. But when I take him home and y'all doing that shit, then it's like taking a bath and putting on the same dirty clothes. And here's what's even worse. What's even worse is when he leaves the house and he go to that bus stop, and now some dudes roll up on him and point a pistol at him and say, hey, where you from? Or even, it ain't no dudes, it's the police. Come jack him up, get him turned around, damn near stripping, looking for a gun, looking for stuff, talking about where you from. So if I change his mindset, his behavior, his attitude, but I take him home and the environment hasn't supported the change, and then the perception that people have on him, the dudes from the other neighborhood, look, well, you from over there, so we supposed to fight you and shoot at you. And the police think the same thing, then it's like me I'm bathing him, I'm baptizing him in this water, and I'm putting him right back in this dirty environment. So for me, what has to happen is we have to change all that. We have to change. So in order for me to make your son or my son healthy, is I got to change the people around him. One of the hardest things that I did working, coming out the West Adams area, coming out the 20s, is I started looking for all the drive-by shooters that come out the 30s. When they was coming home, I'm like, man, I got to have him. All the dudes who was flocking and all that, I grabbed them, man. I made them carpenters. I made them electricians. And everybody like, man, what you messing with them for? Because them dudes who was going to shoot my kids. So that's the important part is, shit, I got to get all the drive-by shooters from the 30s in schoolyards. I got to get, man, because them are the ones crossing Crenshaw, crossing Jefferson, shooting at my people. So I got to get them working. I mean, I got to get my people working too. Don't get me wrong, but I got to get all the threats to my community. I got to make them healthy. I got to make them healthy, man. I can't just be sitting here like if I got a 4-piece chicken dinner and me and my people eating. And then the people in the 30s in schoolyards like, shit, we ain't got no chicken. We ain't eating. And nobody did nothing for us. So now what's that anger and hatred gonna come into my community and try to steal the chicken dinners, right?
Yes, sir.
So I gotta reach out around, man, and change the environment so that at least my kids can walk to the bus stop. At least they can, be able to go to school without the threat of violence.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I've learned over the years and educate myself, like that's part of my mission too. Like I gotta do the same thing for myself, my family, my kids, and so on and so forth outwardly, the best way that I can, because we are every man is some kind of pillar, should be some kind of pillar in that community in some way, in some positive way, shape, form, or fashion. So yeah, it's very important that we figure this out and start behaving and moving and putting action into it.
Right.
Okay, so I had you on here a little longer than I expected. I do got two more questions, and I had more questions, but I didn't get into them. But I do got two more questions, and maybe on another note, we can get together again and go deeper into some other stuff.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I want to say though, I do appreciate you once again for linking up with me. And before I finished off with these two questions, I do appreciate you for linking up with me. The sister that linked us together, she is amazing, and I appreciate her as well for linking us together.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so as far as you trying to build these relationships in the communities and put these people together and take the threats off the street with giving them opportunities. Is that how final call? I'm sorry, second call came into place.
Nah, second call came into place when Bo Taylor and Jim Brown started bumping heads. They both two pet bulls. So it was a split between Unity One and American. And I told Bo Taylor I could not leave Jim Brown's American. That's the curriculum that got me to join in. You know, it wasn't a Unity One. It wasn't just hanging with Crips and Blood. So um, second call actually came in because Bo Taylor did not want to go after government contracts. And I needed to finish with American. And Jim Brown just let me go. He's like, man, if you're hanging out with Bo and Bo talking about me, then that's the same as you talking about me. He said, because you with him. So I was telling him that's not the case, man. I need the curriculum. And Bo told me, man, you don't need the curriculum. Bo helped me write the second call curriculum. So that's when second call started because of their split up, because of their breakup. Um, so yeah, it was my friend Big Monster Kenny. We sitting at the table, and I was reminded of a situation when I was in prison in '86. The Muslim imam had told me that I had a beautiful family, and he asked me would I die for my family, and I said, man, no question. I said, man, I'll die for my kids. And he told me, he said, man, he said, these are the same little girls, the same people who need you to be alive. The people that you would die for are the same ones who need you to live the most. And he said, but you foolishly and frivolously throw your life away without love, without care. And that's where the name Second Call came from. This is the second chance at loving life. Instead of me living my life ready to die, I'm going to live my life ready to live and love the life that I have. So, yep, that's where Second Call came from.
Okay. And did you that's something that you formed with by yourself, or something that you formed with Bo Taylor?
No, so I actually formed that with a guy named Kenny Smith. I want to say he was sitting there eating a sandwich. So every time I said something, he just agreed. He was like, yeah, we should do that. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. But I got to say, if not for Kenny, because I wasn't the target. The target was the homie Big Reese. And Big Reese knew that Big Monster had a little more intelligence than a lot of other people in the community. So he asked him, hey, man, you go see what these dudes is talking about. So Monster took me. And in other words, it wasn't my invite. So if it wasn't for Monster inviting me, it wouldn't be no second call. So I always give him credit for being a co-founder, even though he was eating a sandwich and wasn't paying attention. But if not for him being the one called in, but there was no way I could have ever, joined that group. Because I wouldn't have known. I just kept being a tow truck driver.
Right. Okay.
I wouldn't have known to go to the meetings. I wouldn't have known that they looking for Reese. I wouldn't have known none of that. I would have never gravitated towards Bo Taylor. I mean, I might have later on, but the timing was right.
Right. Okay, I got a my last question is a wild card question. I do wish I would have got into it earlier. Okay, so I seen that you played some roles in ESPN's 30 for 30 series, and also T.I.'s Road to Redemption, Crips and Bloods, Made in America. What is How to Make Money Selling Drugs. Yeah, a lot of very good informational productions. How did you get into that?
Man, all that's Bo Taylor again. So,
Okay.
Bo Taylor introduced me to Stacy Peralta, and that was Crips and Bloods Made in America. It was the Baron Davis project for a long time. Baron Davis put up the money for it. And it was, if you've ever seen Bastards of the Party, Bloods and Crips Made in America actually was just the same type of production, but just on a mass scale, on a bigger scale, where it talked about the history of Los Angeles and how the Bloods and Crips, if you actually open up their skin and looked in the back, it'd say "Made in America" because they were made right here. But that led to different producers calling me, looking for, like the A&E series One Blood, Matthew Cook looking for How to Make Money Selling Drugs, different things of that nature. T.I.'s Road to Redemption, what happened is they called. So what happens is Stacy Peralta let everybody know, if you want access to L.A., you can call Skipp Townsend. So T.I.'s Road to Redemption, they wanted young people. And this is a time when Bo Taylor and Jim Brown is, you know, bumping heads. And I was in the school and I was working on my second call curriculum. So I started giving them people who were in the probation school. They got 1 foot in probation, 1 foot in the grave, and some of them didn't even hear. Some of them actually killed. So, but when T.I. was looking for the road to redemption, of course, everybody sent him to Homeboys Industry, but they called me. So I gave him the people, and he took the people to Homeboys Industry, which pissed me off. Like, man, I'm doing the same work, but he wants to show some kind of counseling at Homeboys or whatever. I helped out about 3-4 different episodes.
Okay. And what about the 30 for 30?
Yeah, so hey, look, man, I never met Ice Cube, not a day in my life. I can't tell you me and him kicked it or nothing. But he had his production company call me for 2 different things. It was another program he had that never aired, and he called me for the 30 for 30 to talk about the Raiders when, from a gang perspective. So I tipped my hat to Cube because he, that was one of them things where out of all the people involved in gangs and the gang lifestyle, and there was no way he could have known that I was a Raider fan. So I think that was you know what I mean? So, that was a good call, man. And I appreciate that was historic. So that and How to Make Money Selling Drugs, you got to figure with that. I'm in a documentary with Ice Cube, Snoop, Al Davis before he died. That was major. And then being How to Make Money Selling Drugs, man, that's 50 Cent, Eminem. And then I said one of the craziest things. I said, man, I didn't want to be like Mike, because I grew up when everything was like Mike, Michael Jordan, Mike Tyson, Michael
Right.
Jackson, all that. I don't want to be like Mike. I want to be like Freeway Rick. And then they interviewed Freeway Rick, and he came on and said, "Yeah, hey, I'm Freeway Rick." So it's like, man, all these things was like, man, that's like I said, I was anointed, man. I wasn't appointed. What made Ice Cube call me, man? I ain't no Ice Cube, but that's
That's
how I
the
got in that 30-30 series. That's crazy. But I'm
yeah,
grateful for all of it, though. I'm great.
yeah, for
And
sure.
then I don't know if you've seen the series One Blood by A&E on the Gangland series that they had. So,
I have.
okay, so here's the thing. I didn't want to do it. The lady Rachel called me, and I took her to Nasty Ed and Green Eyes and VR. These is all dudes who started Inglewood Family, and they sat there and ran it down. They were like, "Oh, Skip, Lil C's, Wesley Logan, Jan Brewer was the one who did this." They sat there and ran the whole story down. And she said, "Okay, I'm gonna go get a crew so we can film this." And they said, "No, we ain't gonna say that." And I was like, "That's crazy. How y'all tell?" They said, "Well, you say it." So then I called T. Rogers from the Jungles. I called T. Rogers, man, you brought Blackstone here, you and your brother. So he said, well, Skip, how much they gonna pay? And I asked, how much you gonna pay him? They said, we're not gonna pay him. It's a journalist. This is a news story, you know. And he said, Skip, tell them what part of my body they could put in their mouth. And I said, man, I'm not gonna do that, man. Why are you being disrespectful, T? So, and then we went to Compton. Me and Lil Stutterbox went to Compton looking for his brother, who was original Ludus Park, get him to tell us a story. And shit, he started running. Like, man, I ain't getting on TV. So some of these things, like I say, I wasn't appointed. I tried to give everybody else their props so that they
Right.
could tell the history. And they didn't want it. So me, Little Stutterbox, and Calico, we did it. Like, fuck it.
Yeah, man. Some people just they just don't want to say nothing about nothing,
Yeah.
which is respectable too.
Yeah, I have to respect them on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, look, man, I ain't gonna hold you too much longer, man.
I
The
appreciate it.
conversation was very informative. I do wish I would have got deeper, but like I said, maybe we can do it again on another note.
Yeah, just hit me up whenever, brother. I appreciate you.
For sure, man. I appreciate you coming on. I thank you once again for those who didn't get to tune in from the beginning. We just had a very authentic conversation with the legendary Skipp Townsend, um, activist, community activist, gang activist, pillar in the community, um, interventionist. What It's so many things, man. I'm gonna have to come up with something to try to sum them all up together. But yeah, for people who don't know who Skipp Townsend is, his link is in the description. The link to Final Call to see what I'm sorry, man. Damn, that's whack. The link to Second Call to check out what services that Second Call offers to the community, to ex felons, to people trying to put themselves in a better position to grow mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
Yes,
So
sir.
yeah, go tap into that. You got an Instagram, Skip, or a social media people can follow?
Yeah, Second Call Wolfpack is the number 2, NDCALL Wolfpack. Second Call Wolfpack.
Okay, so yeah, so y'all go follow Second Call Wolfpack, and also I'll add that to the description as well, so y'all can go check that out. Yeah, man, Skip, I appreciate you, and until we link up again, peace and love, bro.
Peace and blessings to you, brother. Thank you for it, for the
Yes,
interview.
sir.
All right.
Appreciate everybody for tapping in, man. That was a dope interview slash conversation with the legendary Skipp Townsend. Um, yeah, we got into some very good topics. I seen people was engaged, so yeah, I appreciate that. I wish I'd have got to post some stuff on the screen, but I wanted to be engaged. So I ain't even get into that. But man, shout out to y'all for tuning in. Salute. Um, Share this to your people, share this to your networks, like, share, comment, subscribe. Stand on what you say and only say what you can stand on. We just had a very authentic conversation with Skipp Townsend. Um, More interviews to come, more content to come. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. Let's get it.